The sad truth about atheists is that we're mostly selfish. We put our own well-being ahead of that of the community for most of our lives. That's biologically and personally essential. We're no more selfish than Christians, but selfish nonetheless. And it's okay. After all, didn't Jesus himself say, whilst accepting an oil massage from Mary in John 12:8, "You will always have the poor among you, but you will not always have me here"? Do Christians do more good work than atheists? Yes, I suspect that they do. And not just because there are so many more of them. Do they do it because they're better people? Hell no, if you'll excuse the phrase. Because that's what it all comes down to, doesn't it? Carrot and stick. Do good deeds and go to heaven. Don't do good deeds, go to hell. Whatever that might mean to your flavour of the week version of Christianity. Snake oil Christians like Hovind, Venom Fang X and William Lane Craig are all fond of positing the question, why don't you just do whatever you want if there's no absolute morality? You might just as well turn the question back on them and ask, why don't you live perfectly moral lives if there is? And the answer in both cases is, because we're all just human, with our desire to live prosperously, both physically and emotionally, but our imperfections, which sometimes obstruct that objective. I'm always surprised whenever atheists attempt to deflect this moronic challenge by trying to argue that there is absolute morality, a concept that I do not believe in. I believe that there are only two types of morality, socially beneficial and socially learned. The former seems to me to be fairly consistent, and the latter changes all the time. Generally speaking, socially beneficial morality encompasses behaviours which increase our chances of survival, be it within a group or individually. If we act in ways detrimental to others, steal, rape, commit violence, etc., we are likely to encounter hostility, isolation, and we will lose the chance to breed or interact with others if we repeat it often enough. We may even forfeit our very lives. But there's a huge area of low-level immorality that we can safely ignore with minimal or no consequences. Lying, being unfaithful, being lazy, greedy or bigoted are all practices that do not significantly diminish our chances of breeding. Many of these become classed as immoral simply because they're socially taught as such. The well-being of the community becomes more important than the success of the individual. Some socially learned behaviours, such as the belief that nudity is wrong, have not held true for thousands of years. Then Christianity came in and large parts of the world became ashamed of itself, in spite of the fact that the Bible clearly implies in Genesis that nudity is the proper state for mankind. And now many people are becoming comfortable with nudity again. Child slavery was acceptable for much of history, and even now child labour is perfectly acceptable in many cultures. But in this so-called civilised world, we insist that people remain as dependent children until their late teens or even 20s. Socially or culturally learned morality is all but arbitrary. Many, if not most atheists, are less bound by socially learned morality than theists. In fact, large segments of the atheist community consciously go out of their way to reject theist ideals, such as sexual modesty, temperance and others. We can say what we like about our intellect, but the fact is, in rejecting a pseudo-moral biblical framework that constrains our lives out of duty to a higher power, atheists also appear to lose the compulsion to make the large-scale charitable donations that enable the good works and the ills supported by theistic organisations. Christians especially love to point to this fact, claiming it as evidence that atheists are less kind-natured. But what such Christians unwittingly do is demonstrate not some charitability that becomes innate the moment one becomes a sunbeam for Jesus, rather that they are only good because they are ordered to be good, whereas whatever good deeds atheists do, they do for other motivations. So does that make Christians better people? Only if you think that a slave obeying his master is better than a free man who does what he chooses. There's a phrase for the willing slave. We call such lackeys Uncle Toms. Incredibly, the Bible repeatedly entreats slaves to obey their masters, and not just in the Old Testament for all you Christians who claim that Jesus brought with him the new covenant. Ephesians 6:5 says, "Slaves, obey your earthly masters with respect and fear, and with sincerity of heart, just as you would obey Christ." An interesting Freudian slip there, that its author Paul believed that we should be fearful of Jesus. Colossians 3:22 says, "Slaves, obey your earthly masters in everything, and do it not only when their eye is on you and to win their favour, but with sincerity of heart and reverence for the Lord." 1 Peter 2:18 even offers this sickening advice. "Slaves, submit yourselves to your masters with all respect, not only to those who are good and considerate, but also to those who are harsh." So even if your master is unreasonable, you should still do what you're told. If that's not the epitome of Christianity, I don't know what is. It's not that the Lord's ways are too mysterious to understand when he drowns the entire planet. It's simply that we are slaves and have no right to question our master, even when he's a psychopathic bastard. So I have just one question for you. Are you a free man or woman, or are you an Uncle Tom for Jesus? Hey guys, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please take the time to rate and comment, and it would mean a lot to me if you would subscribe. Thank you.